Today's scenario is scenario number 7 from the SR 2015 pack, Outflank. Has two 12-inch diameter zones along the center line. There's no kill box. Each player receives 1 control point for controlling a zone and 2 control points for dominating a zone, for a total of 3 points available in a turn. The first to 5 wins.
Hey everybody, this is Gaston, and we are back for round 2 with some more minion action. This time around I'm playing up against Convergence with Lucant and Axis's Theme Force. So there's a little bit of list chicken here on do I go with Helga, do I go with Arcadius. Ultimately I chose to go with Helga for a few reasons. One, if he does drop Axis, I do feel like the Arc would be at a significant disadvantage against 40 infantry. And also with that scenario, they have that risk of just being outnumbered. He can close out a whole zone and he can force me out on that. And then conversely, I have the numbers. I have 18 infantry models of my own that are just removed from play, backed up by another 10 brigands, and that I can now play that game against him if he doesn't decide to drop Lucant. The other thing with this list is it doesn't hit nearly as hard as the Arc does, so for Lucant's feat turn I'm basically looking at a loss of a turn where I'm not going to be able to attack him, but I still have my feat in order to give me some scenario presence even if I can't necessarily damage him.
Hey everyone, PolarBearCub here. So with our week 2, round 2 of the scrambles, going against minions, they have a unique advantage over Convergence Series where they have a lot of models that can RFP. So when thinking about my 2 lists, I really didn't want to have to drop Lucant again, but Axis against any type of minion is probably a really bad idea. So because of that, I really thought about it and I decided just to drop Lucant, knowing that my round 3 I'll be locked into playing Axis.
My initial deployment's pretty easy. It's basically just going to be Helga and the Beasts, since most of the rest of my army advance deploys. She's going to go ahead and go directly behind that forest, and hopefully that'll keep her a little bit safe from line of sight from Prime.
Alright, so for my deployment, I pretty much deployed, pretty standard as a lot of other Convergence players do. So, really, out of all of the armies that I was concerned about, I'm definitely concerned about playing minions more than anything else. And I'll talk a little bit more about that throughout this game. But they, like I said earlier, they have a really unique advantage where they have a lot of models that can RFP. Especially, I was pretty sure that he was going to drop Helga. And Helga has 3 units of models, 3 units that Slaughterhousers, they all RFP. That's 18 models that'll just decimate armies. Really will effectively make 6 point of my army pretty much useless, except for the fact that they can repair my Prime Axiom and my Jacks.
So I had actually won the roll-off to see who goes first, and opted to go first, specifically so I could do this. Pigs have some really strong theme forces, but getting to advance deploy all of your infantry is just so dirty, and I love doing it so much. It isn't nearly as bad as this one as my Midas list, which had 52 infantry to go through, but still we're putting a lot of pigs right up there real quick, and he doesn't have a lot of shooting. He basically just has Prime Axiom going on, so that turn 1 I'm just going to get to go full pig bore all the way up the board and get dominating control area, just take up a large chunk of table space very quickly on turn 1, and it's going to be very solid. The big decision I have to decide here is how to deploy the Slaughterhousers. I am deploying them asymmetrically, so on the bottom end I've got 2 units of Slaughterhousers and 1 Roadhog, and on the top half of the table I've got 1 unit of Slaughterhousers and 2 heavies. That way I can kind of balance things out. Also, we're going to go ahead and throw Saxon Orrik up on the top half of the table, so that way he can back up those guys with Pathfinder who have to go through the woods. So one of the things I really harp on when building a list and deciding how you want to play it is to have a plan for turn 1, to have a way to unpack your army. Turn 1 should be basically automatic for you unless you're up against a curveball like Body and Soul where you're starting with these upkeeps on you. In this case I feel like it's especially important for Helga because in order for her army to benefit from her spells, and by her spells I mean dash, she really has to go first. She has to kind of lead the charge. And so when you're, and this filters kind of into deployment, when you're setting all your models up, if you don't leave that nice little gap for her to move up into, then what you're going to find is that you've blocked her off. And now, you know, other things have to move. They're not going to move as far. They're not going to run as far. And you're going to lose just that little bit of extra efficiency that you could eke out just by pre-planning. So that's exactly what we had done in deployment, was leave that gap. She goes ahead, she advances into it. She's going to put Defender's Ward on the Slaughterhousers up top in order to just kind of keep them safe from shooting. And then she's going to cast Dash, camp her 2, and hide behind the wall. I had briefly considered cycloning forward a little bit forward. And the reason why you do that is for the next turn, he's got 2 units, and he's got 1 on each flank. And it would be really, really nice to be able to tag both of them with Distraction. So that way they're both now -2 mat when they come to attacking me. Having defense 14 versus defense 12 is a nice boost. But in this case I decided safety first. He does have the Prime Axiom, he does have that little stupid drag gun. Even though the distances probably aren't going to work out, you never know, things can go south really quickly. So she just comes forward, she does her thing, the Brigands go forward, they are going to do Heroic Call, they are going to dig in. This will pretty much be what they do all the time. It is their plan A. Up at the top, Saxon Orrik goes, he gives Pathfinder out to the Slaughterhousers. They're going to run on forward, and a couple of them are just going to stick their back toe into those woods in order to gain a concealment bonus. Again, just in case any shots come after them. So they're going to be defense 14, defense 16 in the woods, armor 17, and he's starting at Rat 3. So I think the odds of them actually taking a hit are going to be pretty low. And that's the idea, is now I've got these Brigands who are dug in, they're defense 16, I've got these Slaughterhousers who have nice defense. And now, rather than just double stacking it on the Brigands, I'm really kind of spreading around the love, spreading around the protection for the whole army. This doesn't necessarily work against a lot of opponents. In this particular instance it just works because he is a low rat and he has such limited shooting. Otherwise, the War Beasts are going to run on up. There is nothing particularly special there, they're riling, so I get my 4 Fury. Then we have these Slaughterhousers. What's going to be nice about them is with Dash, I have this nice 11-inch threat range. I'm going first. Again, he lacks those guns to put a lot of pressure on me. So in turn, I'm just going to pressure the entire zone in here. Now, I can reach all the way back, I can block his guys from getting in next turn. I can really punish him on his turn 1. To punish him right off the back, force him to make these really difficult positioning decisions. And that's something that's very nice, something you don't get very often with pigs, just because of the low quality of the infantry and sometimes the low speed on a lot of their things.
Alright, so turn 1 of the game, really my whole thought here is I just need to get my army up as fast as possible. He went turn 1, he had advanced deploy, he was able to run everything, so I need to get models into these zones as soon as possible so I do not get blocked out. Now the downside of this is that with his models RFPing, he's going to be able to charge, he's going to be able to remove a lot of my units, but if I can at least just get a base of them in there, I can create kind of like a dead zone where I can start getting more models in there. So I have my multi-wound units on the right side, and I have my single wound army over to the right. So really probably what I should have done is, I think I messed up even in pre-deployment on this. I really feel like both the units should have been together. I really don't know if that changes that much, but I feel like having probably better deployment would be having all of my models, all my jacks on one side and then having my units on the other. I think it would be a little bit more balanced. That being said, I think my deployment was still relatively strong. So really what I'm doing is I'm just moving, the rest of my army up. Prime Axiom, I'm trying to run him into the zone. I am just a hair out of the zone, which isn't bad. I don't think that's going to cause that big of an issue right away. I'm still going to be able to get into the zone. I'm positive with the Prime Axiom, even though I'm just a little bit out. And then pretty much I'm just going to run up the rest of my units. When it comes time for Lucant to activate, I'm going to cast Deceleration this turn, and also I'm going to put up Watcher. Watcher's kind of just my go-to. I don't necessarily know if it's always, well, it's always a great spell, what am I talking about? But in deceleration, really, just because of his one shooting unit, I want to make sure that they're doing as little as possible to remove any of my units. I'd honestly prefer them to shoot, because at least I can bring models back. But that is pretty much my turn after the rest of my stuff moves up.
So this was pretty interesting for me. He ran forward to have some models towing the zone and have good board position early, which I did expect. But he did not pop feet, which I was actually really anticipating a turn 1 feat in order to just protect a lot of his models in the zone. Since he didn't do that, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do my best to punish him for it. Now, I was talking about having Helga go and, planning your positioning and everything. And now we're seeing a case where I screwed up my own positioning for turn 2, where now I really don't have a good landing zone for where I want Helga to stand in order to try to tag both units with distraction. There's basically a brigand standing right where she wants, and since I also, want the brigands to kind of move out of the way, there's some things going on there. Some order of activation issues. So what we have instead is we have Saxon Orrik. He comes up, puts Pathfinder on the brigands. They're going to advance. They're going to, heroic call. They're going to dig in. And that gets him out of the way. So now I just need to make this decision on Fury and how much I want to leave Helga with. Essentially, she'll be coming down and she's upkept Defender's Ward, and then she will have 1 Fury left after casting 2 distractions. And she's going to need a 6 to hit both of them. And that puts her just right in front of where Prime Axiom can get to, and it seems dangerous. He's got a lot to trample through, so I don't think he can necessarily get her in melee, but by having that line of sight needed in order to catch both units, it's very dangerous. So instead we're just going to commit her basically to one side, and she's going to march on over. The BoneGrinders are going to go ahead, they're going to craft Talisman on her. She's going to march on over and she's going to tag that unit of Reciprocators with distraction. And she's going to roll, and it's going to hit, and life is going to be good. She's also going to go ahead. I'm very excited to have a caster with a gun, a long-range gun-ish. I normally play Protectorate. We don't get guns, we don't get nice things in Protectorate, is my running joke, because sometimes we frequently do. But I'm very excited to have this gun to use it, to try to kind of, ding them up, so that way I can get that extra finisher. So now we're just going to check, see who's in dash, and unleash some hogs. So now we're going to go ahead, we're going to have the Slaughterhousers charge in. They're going to try to go out to their maximum reach range, just so that way I'm not clogging myself up, and I'm not clumping them up for the next turn. The other thing is that on the healthy guys, we're going to go 2 Slaughterhousers deep, so that way we can make sure we kill them. And then on the guy who's already injured, we're just going to count on finisher, and just go on 1 Slaughterhouser on him. The final guy in the unit's just he's going to run to the back, provide a little bit of backup. But the spacing out is kind of important to me, because I found that when you're using the whole unit of Slaughterhousers, they go in, they do their job, but then they're all clumped up and they almost immediately die. So here he does have set defense up, I believe, but between distraction and powerful charge, no problems there. And then we're just going to start removing from play these guys. So the Enigma Foundries don't get any souls, they're not going to bring anybody back. And I'm perfectly okay with that. Then on the top flank, we're going to do something very, very similar. Here I'm trying to charge guys who are a little bit further into the back of that unit, so that way I'm locking up more models with my reach, and I'm stalling his forward momentum. 3 of the guys are in range for dash, and then 3 of the top guys are not. The other thing I'm doing is I'm sending 1 Slaughterhouser in, and the idea there is to have him engaging Prime Axiom. The only real benefit to this is it stops him from being able to aim and get the aiming bonus because he's in melee. But when you can just take away, a little bonus like that, every now and then that adds up, and over the course of a whole game, if you just start taking away those little bitty bonuses that they can get, then that'll have a significant impact in the long run. So here they're just chopping up some of his guys, doing some remove from play. I think I got maybe 4 of them. Otherwise, the 3rd unit of Slaughterhousers are just kind of running to position out, and then the War Beasts are going to move to backfill. And again, we're being very careful to leave a nice infantry screen in front of my War Beast to keep him from dragging them in. Everything is because he is only Rat 3. We're towing some forests in order to get that defense bonus. Just, it makes it that much harder for him to hit me.
Alright, so turn 2. I lost a lot of models. Not excited about it at all. He had strong dice rolls. Gaston also pretty much did what I thought he was going to do, which I probably should have been a little bit more conservative with my Reciprocators. My Obstructors, I'm sad that I lost as many as I did, but that's not as unexpected as it was with the Reciprocators. He was able to definitely put enough damage on them to where, you know, finisher is really good. So with this turn, my main objectives for this turn is to get Prime Axiom into the right zone, try to clear off some of those pigs, move the Inverter up, as well as get the Reciprocators in there. So first I activate the Obstructors. They're going to start moving up, start doing some combined attacks. Really the biggest thing I think is going to hurt me is I'm going to start doing a lot of combined, so they're going to be, you know, I'm at 8. That unit over there on the right is Defenders Warded, which is something I had forgotten about. I still don't think I would have activated Lucant first, because Purification, though it would have been really good to put up there. I'm still on 8, so I feel like I have a good chance. What's really going to hurt me is going to be if he starts making a lot of tough rolls, which is an unfortunate thing because he kind of has really good dice this turn. So next what I'm doing is I am activating the Attunement Servitor, and he's just moving up. I'm going to try to flare one of his beasts up there. The reason is I was thinking about moving the Prime Axiom up there, and I wanted to try to drag in one of his pigs that's in the forest, try to eliminate them as soon as possible. Gaston does a really good thing about throwing his entire unit up there. He's saving his heavy hitters for later on in the game. With me on the reverse side, I'm going to have to put my stuff kind of out there. I need to make sure my stuff does as much damage as possible. So, fortunately, the Attunement Servitor does miss, which is a little frustrating. I kind of expected him to miss because I knew it wasn't in range, but my AoE did not go well and it went backwards. So next what I'm doing is I'm activating Corollary. He's going to give 3 to the Prime Axiom. He's going to shoot 1 over to the Inverter. And then I am going to activate my Reciprocators. They are going to, this turn, they're going to give themselves +2 POW because I really want to make sure these things die. And then they're going to start laying some damage. And yep, unfortunately, more tough rolls happen, so that's a thing. So next, the next Attunement Servitor, he activates and he ends up shooting out another one. I end up not, I think I got just that one pig over on the side there. Nothing too spectacular. So my last Attunement Servitor, he kind of just moves out of the way because I want to get him out. I activate my Enigma Foundry. He moves over to the side. Really for this is because I want to get Lucant up there. I definitely need to be a little bit more aggressive this turn. I am planning on when Lucant activates to pop feet. So that's going to kind of be a big thing. So I wanted him up far enough to where popping a feat will be effective. And what he does, activate Lucant activated, he ends up giving positive charge to Prime Axiom, and he popped his feet. Next, Prime Axiom walks up, is 5 inches. He's going to get right in there. I really couldn't get the drag off, I felt. I could remove, you know, the 2 models there, but that pig being in the forest, it was a really high defense, and I had to move in order to be able to get the drag off. So rolling a 3 just really wasn't effective. So I decided to instead I was just going to remove some of his units. It's not really a great point. It's not cost effective really for what I just did, but oh well. My Prime Axiom, he tends to do a lot of work for me, and I knew this turn he was barely going to be damaged next turn. If he got 2 of his beasts on me, I really didn't think that he was going to do enough damage to hurt me. So, and then at the end of this turn, I end up dropping a Reflex Servitor. Now, last turn I didn't drop Servitor at all. I don't think that necessarily hurt me. It was turn 1. There really wasn't that much stuff he could have charged. I could have dropped another Reflex Servitor, but I didn't. So this Reflex Servitor, he activated. He's going to charge one of the models on the side. And just because I end up not doing enough. Well, he ends up getting tough on one of them, and the other model, he was engaged, so he was no longer dug in. But that being said, I still didn't roll high enough. And then I moved on my Enigma Foundry, just looking through, and that's pretty much the end of turn 2 for me. Nope, sorry, I did have one more thing. I do have the Inverter. So the Inverter, by this point, he has 2 focus on him. So I end up just walking him up, and I'm really just going to swing with him, just try to start clearing off some of those models. But as you can see, tough rolls are a thing, and tough rolls happen quite a bit this game, and it's frustrating. It's something you can't really calculate that much for. But it's a thing that happens, and it's something that, oh well. And that's another tough roll. Another tough roll. That was my turn 2.
So we're going into Lucant's feat turn, and for the most part, you can sort of treat this as like a Kalissa feat turn, an Epic Haley feat turn, kind of a ghost turn, where I don't have the juice to really damage anything significant in his army. So what we're going to do instead is we're going to start focusing on the scenario now. We're going to change gears. Ordinarily, I like to keep her feat for assassination runs, especially. It's been very, very powerful for doing that. But there is absolutely this big scenario presence to her feat where you can use it to clear a zone. Because Lucant has steady, her feat doesn't really accomplish all that much against him. And so we're actually going to use her feat to clear out that bottom zone there, dominate it, and start putting scenario pressure on top of army pressure onto him. So we're starting with the BoneGrinders. They're just going to come forward. They're going to craft Talisman, because that's always useful. Then up here we're starting with the Slaughterhousers. They are doing the run charge order in quotes. For the most part, they're not really getting charge bonuses. They're just grinding further and further deeper into that unit up there. And it's been great with Defender's Ward not getting purified off. They've really been hanging in there. And Tough Checks has actually been very good to me as well this game. So we do have the one guy charging in. And they're just going to start swinging. I mean, the odds of them really doing all that much, not particularly high, but every guy counts. And a couple good rolls in there. So just some more models out of the unit removed. So with the Slaughterhousers busy, it's going to be up to the Brigands to really form that meat wall that protects the beasts. So Saxon Orrik's going to come up, he's going to Pathfinder them again. Then we're going to go with Helga. And she's just going to squeak through that little gap there between the Roadhog and the Slaughterhouser. So she's going to come on forward. She's measuring her control area. She's going to go ahead, she's going to distract the Unit of Reciprocators again. They're not in combat because that one Slaughterhouser's knocked down. Hits, awesome. And then she's going to go ahead and feat. She also shot somebody and boosted damage. I think she shot the Inverter and did that. So then we're getting another pseudo run charge order from the Slaughterhousers. They're going to hit them, slam them back, nicely out of the zone. And then there's a little bit of order of activations there between those two Slaughterhousers. They both charge that guy. And I was worried about slamming him out of reach of one and not getting some bonuses, but the bonuses would have been the same no matter what. So we just went with the back guy first and the front guy swinging on him. Obviously the front guy didn't charge, but he did get finisher. Unfortunately, that does leave that one little reciprocator on like 1 or 2 health. But I got awesome slam damage on the inverter, so he got kicked back 3 inches. So essentially, in order to dominate the zone, I have 1 reciprocator to kill. And so next up is the Brigands. They're just going to position themselves. So they're advancing, they're doing heroic call, they're going to dig in again. And they're just forming this meat screen in front of the war beasts. And the next unit of Slaughterhousers is going to go. It's always awesome to have 3 units. They're going to do the charge order as well. And he's just going out to his maximum reach. Again, you need to keep back. You need to always be aware of Watcher. Because you're going to be aware of it all game. And it's going to be that one turn that you forget about it, and that's when it bites you. But here, being very careful. Just because the inverter is steady, you can slam him multiple times because he can't be knocked down. So, doing some things there. And then the other members of the unit are just running. They're looking to position themselves to be able to get to Prime Axiom next turn when the feet's down. But the inverter just gets slammed another little ½ inch. Getting a little bit further away from Helga, a little bit further away from my Roadhog. And with that, we're also clearing the zone. My war beasts are completely out of control. My control area. So we're going to go ahead and scoot them back in. Then that Roadhog is going to move. Again, I'm just being very cautious about the inverter. I don't want to give away a free heavy.
Alright, so my turn 3. So he is up 2 control points now. I'm definitely concerned by this point. So my thought is that where Helga's at, I'm trying right now to see if the inverter could possibly get to him. I am just out by ½ inch. So my original thought is that I was going to use the Corollary to actually push the inverter. Really great idea. Downside to this is, and it's a pretty big downside, is the Corollary still needs to successfully do a strength roll. He's a strength 6. Inverter is a lot higher, strength 12. So pretty much impossible. So I pretty much abandoned that idea pretty quickly. The next big issue I have is that I need the inverter to do a lot of work. I also need the Prime Axiom to do a good amount of work, what I'm planning to do. So I, being a Convergence player, hate doing this, but I'm actually going to have to allocate focus out to one of my jacks. Just have to do it. It's annoying, but it has to be done. So what I end up doing is I'm going to take 3 focus and I'm going to end up giving it to the Prime Axiom just because it's too far of a move. I need to make sure certain things do happen in order for this turn to really work out. Because really what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to try to kill Helga this turn. That's really what this is going to be. He's beating me on attrition at this point. So I need to scare the piss out of him and try to kill Helga. So I activate the Corollary, give the inverter 3 focus, and what I'm going to do is I activate the inverter. This is what I need to do is I need to clear the 1 pig that's off to the far right, which I did relatively quickly, and because I needed him cleared so I can use the Attunement Servitor to move up and try to flare Helga. If I flare Helga and the Prime Axiom can get into shooting range, I need to get a 10 on the drag. So that's not impossible. It's a high number, but I really think I can do it. So the inverter's just going through. I'm just working through to go kill off the rest of these models here. So next, the Attunement Servitor, he's going to activate. And right now I'm kind of just debating on where exactly he needs to go because I need the Prime Axiom over to the side. So Attunement Servitor activates. I go to shoot Helga. I am a 1/4 inch off, which is okay because it's a 4-inch AoE. Like, I'm really thinking that it could, depending on how the deviation happens, it could be good. Unfortunately, we go and look at it, and we go back about 3 or 4 different times, and the end result is, well, Gaston's looking at it as well. I'm holding my model. We're looking to see exactly where the 7 inches is. I mean, we're trying everything possible because at this point it looks like it is definitely out. Where it deviated, it just a little bit too far out. I think it was just centimeters out. But I ended up getting the pig. So now in order for me to do the drag, I'm going to need to roll a 12. That being said, you know what? You got to play like you got to pair sometimes. This I think it's a good attrition run. I don't think it's the best, but it's something that I think needs to be done. Not attrition, sorry, assassination run. So after thinking about it for just a little bit, I end up saying screw it. I'm gonna go for it. So next what I do is I'm just activating certain models. A couple other things I need to do is I need to, the Prime Axiom only has 1 point damage on him, so I'm just going to heal it just to be safe. So all of my units, they're moving out of the way. The Optifex Directive, they're moving out of the way just so that I can make sure that, hey, they don't block anything. So right now we're just looking at see what models are kind of going to be able to do damage to them. Nothing's scrouching him, or I get a whole point of damage, which whatever, I'm okay with. And next Prime Axiom, he ends up moving over. Gaston and I were just talking about just to make sure that he's in center to center, so no matter which gun I hit him with, it's going to be a center to center drag out. That's a really good point to bring up with your opponent beforehand, because you don't have this great plan and then you guys argue about it. So I spin a focus point. I need a 12 to hit it, and somehow I manage on hitting it. I think I rolled a 14. So Helga suffers a point of damage, gets dragged in. Next, I got a roll to hit. I'm an 8. I need a 7. Going back and forth whether or not to hit. I forgot she had 2 Fury on her, so she can definitely transfer 2 damage. Rolls off. The good news is it's dice plus 6. She has, I believe, 14 health left. So if I'm hitting her, I'm gonna wreck her. But I really need to hit her. So I successfully hit her on this one. Dice plus 6 damage. I end up doing 13 damage, which is good. Downside is she's gonna take the damage. So the next 2 rolls, she's end up gonna throw these off. In retrospect, what I probably could have done was could have ended up activating the inverter secondly, or the other big thing which you've noticed, I did not drop a reflex servitor, and because I didn't drop a reflex servitor, I think I had her on 1 or 2 points. Honestly, I got on tilt really bad afterwards. So what ended up happening was that the damage got transferred off to 2 of his other beasts. I should have dropped a reflex servitor and try to go for a Hail Mary. I would need like a 10 to hit. If I would have hit though, I would have only need to roll like 4 damage to kill her. But I didn't, and I think that was really, it was a point to where my opponent, being a good opponent, he's going to be able to capitalize on.
So that was a pretty big positioning fail on my part that very nearly cost me the game. And I had the 2 transfers to get through Prime Axiom's attacks, but if he had anything else literally to throw at Helga, I was down to tough check. And that was totally avoidable. I had 3 Slaughterhouses there that I could have just moved in the way. I could have moved the Roadhog in the way. That was a boo-boo on my part. But we survived, and we're going to make the best of this. So the first thing we're doing is we're checking to make sure that Saxon Orrik can get line of sight to Helga into the woods, so that way we can pathfinder her and we can get her piggy butt out of there. It's very important to me to get that. And that's pretty much going to take all her fury to get out of there too, because she's going to have to cast dash so she doesn't take a freeze strike, and then cyclone to actually get out far enough to not die to something else. So here we're having the Brigands going, they're just kind of going hog wild. They're trying to get some sort of damage onto the Prime Axiom just to trigger finisher for the Slaughterhousers. So they shot it up, they did like a grand total of 1 point from all their shots. It's just one of those where it's awesome to hit rolls and terrible damage rolls. And then they're charging around. And they're also looking to see if they can't get some of the small base infantry guys up there, obstructors. The thing I'm very worried about is that the Warhog is kind of out of position here, so it's really going to be just these two Roadhogs getting in on Prime Axiom. The other thing I got to be kind of careful about is not blocking my own charge lanes, so that way, because I don't have reach, so I have to be careful about that as well. So just doing some more of activations checking. There's no need for me to put out Craft Talisman this turn, so they're just going to zap that little Servitor. Get him out of the way. The other thing is that when I was doing damage transferring, one of the Roadhogs is actually down to 3 left in his body. So if I damage him for full bore, that's kind of risky there. So we've got the Warhog coming up, and he's going to go ahead. He's going to put his Animus and Massacre on that Roadhog, so that we can charge for free, get a little bit of extra efficiency there. And that's the injured Roadhog there, so we're just going to risk it. Fortunately, I only do a point of damage, and it's in a different column. So he's pretty safe. And then he's going to go ahead and charge the Prime Axiom. So he gets a spray. He will hit the Prime Axiom. Thank God the thing has a very low defense. Then he'll also light up the Enigma Foundry behind it and light that guy on fire. But I believe I missed the Corollary, which is a little bit sad for me. Nobody likes that thing. But we're going to go ahead, we're just going to start punching him. We've got the benefit of Gang and the counter benefit of Snake Eyes. So just going through, doing damage. And I think that at the end of this, he doesn't entirely kill one side of the Prime Axiom. He's still, dice -4. But it's down to maybe a couple boxes there. Maybe a column, maybe 6 health. So relatively good damage, even with a couple missed attacks. Now just figuring out the proper activation order. So the next thing we're going to do is send in the Slaughterhousers. And that has the added advantage of getting them out of Helga's way for when she tries to escape. So taking full advantage of reach to get that nice 3 inches. Watcher is not up at the moment, so we're safe there. And the Slaughterhousers are just kind of going to town. I believe 2 of them did awesome damage, 1 of them missed, and 1 of them bounced on armor. Next up, we have Saxon Orrik coming forward. He's going to get just within 5 inches of Helga, measuring her control area in order to do that. And we're being very careful to make sure that he doesn't foul up the charge lane for this Roadhog. Then he's going to go ahead, give Helga Pathfinder. And she is going to get out of there. So she's putting dash on herself, Cyclone, and then advance behind the wall. That was a very close call, and we don't want a repeat of that at all. Next up, we're going full bore on the other Roadhog, and then he's just going to charge in old-fashioned style. And take out a Slaughterhouser at the same time. Okay, we're getting that spray. We're going to spray the mechanics. We're not going to worry about boosting to hit or any damage on them. But again, pretty nice roll on the charge damage. And then with that, Prime Axiom's actually out of the picture. So that was relatively unexpected. I didn't actually think I was going to be able to kill Prime Axiom just based on past experiences with specifically this Helga list versus a Lucant list, where I had put in a lot more Slaughterhousers in addition to the 2 Roadhogs, and it hadn't gone down. So I think really I just got kind of lucky on damage rolls there. Otherwise, we have the top unit of Slaughterhousers finishing off the remainder of the Obstructors and whatever little Servitor was up there. So we'll be getting a control point for that top zone. And then over here, we're doing some charges. I think most of them are not boosted, but pretty much we're just bouncing all the damage on the Inverter. So that's Dice Gods coming back. I did great on the Prime Axiom and like 1 point of damage to the Inverter. And then I dented up that final Reciprocator.
So, Convergence turn 4. I am now down 3 control points, and I've lost Prime Axiom. Unfortunately, it's looking pretty grim at this point. Couple things I could do. I want to try to clear off one of those zones. If I can clear out that zone, I can at least start getting control points. That other zone, though, I have to find a way to take it. So what I could do is, my thought is really with this is I can either, hopefully I can clear out the zone on the left. If I clear out the zone on the left, I can get a control point, start gaining control. If I don't, then I need to run Lucant into it probably to start killing models. If I do clear out that entire zone, what I could do is run Lucant into the zone and to the right. That's a lot of attacks I'd be taking, but it's a risk I'd be willing to take. Lucant just stay on all stuff and focus and just really try to wither the attacks. Is it a good plan? I don't think so, but it's a plan that I'd be willing to take. Just to try to make this game kind of finish. So I'm going through, and tough rolls are a thing. Never forget that tough rolls are a thing. So I end up ending with, after the Inverter, there's still 2 models left. My Reflex Servitor activates and ends up leaving a model. So you know what? My Corollary is going to do some work. Alright? You know, I normally don't, have him, do all that much. He has 1 focus point, so he's going to walk up. He's going to spend focus point to try to hit him. Totally hits him and rocks him. Removes from the table. Go Corollary. There's still 1 model left, so Lucant's going to charge forward, and he is going to try and remove that model. So he successfully does. I end up going to be able to capture that zone. I'm going to get 2 control points, which is really nice, but kind of really sets off the plan where I don't know if I'm going to live.
So there's not much left to do here. We're just going to go ahead and wrap up on scenario. So we have to kill a Servitor, an Enigma Foundry, and a Mechanic. And then Helga's obviously just going to run into the zone to dominate for the final points. So we've got all the Brigands. They're going to go hog wild. They're going to see what they can do to that Enigma Foundry. Turns out not a whole heck of a lot. Just very poor Brigand shooting there. And then they're just going to charge on in. So when it's all said and done, the Enigma Foundry is still alive. He's probably, I don't know, half dead maybe. We got a few boxes. But very happily they do manage to take out the Mechanic. So that's one of the higher defense guys I was a little bit worried about. You don't want to let lousy dice kind of get a hold of you. So now we got the Slaughterhousers going in. I'm taking extra care to make sure I get the charge off, just specifically for that powerful charge, so I get that extra +2 to hit. Again, you don't want lousy dice to go from needing 6 to hit to needing 4 to hit. And there's some snake eyes, so some lousy dice right there. But they clear out the Servitor, they clear out the Enigma Foundry. Helga runs into the zone, and that's a game.